That's how I get my kicks in fantasy, is telling people I'm going to beat them with like Jared Goff as my quarterback or shit like that.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I was more energetic than usual. I'm your host tonight. My name is Nick Walsh. I am here with the one, the only, the beautiful, the masculine, good, the really good at fantasy football, Vinny Gonzalez. What's up, Vinny?
What's going on, Walsh? It's a beautiful Friday night to be podcasting.
Yeah. If you're probably listening to this and wondering what the hell our issue is. We weren't able to work out anyone's schedules this week. Basically, we weren't able to get a recap out, and we're doing a preview here on Friday night. It'll come out Saturday morning. That's when you guys will be hearing this. But we're doing our best. Sometimes real life gets in the way for the five of us, and this is what happens, I guess. So yeah, man, this is what you're gonna get. You're getting me. You're getting Vinny. It's Friday night. I'm back in my room, so hopefully my internet doesn't fuck up too much. I'm about 2 feet away from hundreds of ants because I have an ant infestation in my room, and I'm waiting for them to eat all the poisonous bait and die. So that's pretty fucking rad. But we're going to talk about Week 8, Vinny, and I am pumped to do so because it is a bit of a tough week, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I mean, the NFL's been weird as hell, and now we have a ton of buys as opposed to last week where there were just 2 teams on bye, and the matchups aren't like fantastic. We have a couple cool ones, and then the rest are kind of gross.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into it, though, we want to give a shout out to BenchBoss. They're still the revolutionary app. They allow you to play fantasy football live while watching the game on TV. So you can predict the plays, the results of the play, and literally play fantasy football. And you can sign up for that beta again by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/benchboss. And so, guys, as well, just make sure you're, liking, subscribing, reviewing. If you do enjoy the podcast, we would certainly appreciate it to help us out with that. And definitely check out the apps as well, the Let's Talk Fantasy Football apps on iOS and Android. Before we get into the games, you mentioned these buys, so we got 6 of them, man. It's Arizona, Green Bay, Jacksonville, the Rams, the Giants, and the Titans. So I think all things considered, like there are some teams on there that really aren't that fantasy relevant, and particularly now with Green Bay like not being as good. I don't think it like for there being 6 teams, I think it could be worse, but it's still not great.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the injuries to Green Bay and then especially the Giants too, a lot of guys out there. But like 2 big running backs are out with Fournette and Todd Gurley. So that's pretty big. And then you have like those random guys on the Titans, including Marcus Mariota. So things get a little hairy over there.
Yeah, definitely. If you're probably a little bit desperate in some of your plays this week, we'll try and go through the guys that we think might be able to help you out. And since we missed the Thursday game, do you want to talk about the Thursday game at all, or do you think it's worth talking about?
Yeah, I guess so. In the aspect that like it was a huge blowout and like it proved that it's not all Cutler's fault, despite anyone's opinion, specifically Matt and Don, about Cutler all the time. So we saw just like they're in so much trouble. Their offensive line is bad. J.J. is having a terrible season. They're not healthy at wide receiver, so they're having a difficult time, stretching the field and all that stuff. So it was just a real rough outing for them. And then we watched Flacco almost die, but yeah, that was really, really bad. And then we saw Alex Collins kind of emerge. We kept talking about, he's breaking off these big runs on minimal usage. And then they finally wrote him for a game and he did great.
Yeah, he got the majority of the work. He's still not really getting passing down work or the majority of the goal line work. I think inside the 5, he got 1 out of the 4 carries that were that got handed off. So
yeah, they did like a misdirection pitch like 3 times, and then they did like a fullback dive with Buck Allen. Very weird play calling. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean it's to me Collins it's frustrating because he's getting a lot of work, he's getting a lot of carries, and he's being efficient with them. But in fantasy football, particularly in PPR leagues, like out of running backs, you need pass catching and you need goal line stuff. And he's like basically their first and second down back in between the 20s, which is like, it's production, but it's the most fantasy or the least fantasy relevant production, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a little whatever, but if you're, short at running back, or I'm sure he took him off the waivers. So
I mean, I own him in a couple of leagues, but
that's true. Yeah. You were one of the first people to grab him, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've owned him for a lot of the season, and have had to take him in and out of lineups in a couple of leagues. Don't be like me, I guess. But it is what it is. I'll be honest, I didn't watch much of the game last night. I was primarily watching basketball and the junior heavyweight tag tournament for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
That sounds like better than the actual game. I watched the whole thing. It was we went back to the old Thursday night. It was pretty rough, man.
That's like I feel like you must kind of hate yourself to make yourself watch the whole thing there.
Just watching it while whipping my back. Just do better at fantasy, man. Learn.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So one thing to note with the those teams with the Dolphins specifically is I think Cutler and Parker are likely to be back for the Dolphins next game. So just keep that in mind as they will be playing the Raiders, who have a bad defense. So something to think about. Let's get into these Week 8 games that actually haven't happened yet, Vinny. And the first one is another London game. So keep that in mind. It's a 6:30 West Coast start, 9:30 East Coast. I hate the fucking London games, man. I don't want to be up at 6:30 to watch these.
At least, hopefully you don't have a lot of people in this game because it's not, very attractive.
Yeah, it's Minnesota at Cleveland for the record. Minnesota's a 9.5-point favorite. The over/under is 38. It's at Twickenham Stadium. I learned actually my cousin who works for a sport marketing firm in England is like helping put on like the games at Twickenham this year. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty
he's
cool.
Like very
that's awesome.
He's like very involved in that NFL London stuff. But anyway, Minnesota's a big favorite and we should be getting Steph Diggs back. So let's talk about the Minnesota side of the ball first. And we'll start at quarterback. Do you have any interest in Case Keenum as a streamer here?
I do not. I think there will be enough production out of him to get like Diggs and Thielen and Rudolph some points, but I'm not sure. I don't want to go in. Weird shit happens in London, and the last thing I want to be doing while tempting the fantasy gods is playing Case Keenum. So I'm out, even though the matchup is always positive playing Cleveland.
Yeah, that's the weird shit that happens in London thing. It makes me nervous because things that on paper make a lot of sense sometimes just don't end up happening in London. So while on paper, I think Keenum would be a pretty nice streamer this week. It's probably not your first bet in terms of streamers. What about his pass catching targets? You mentioned Diggs, Thielen, Rudolph. I'm not on Rudolph at all. I don't think he should be playing him week to week. But I like Diggs and Thielen.
You're not going to play Rudolph against the Browns? They give up I think the second most next to the Giants, dude.
Yeah, they're like
You can't do that.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's against the Browns.
Yeah,
but
don't get cute. Don't fade them. It's a great matchup. It's like one of the best matchups. So if you've been playing Rudolph, go for it.
Yeah, you play tight ends against the Browns always. You're right.
Absolutely.
And then let's talk about the running backs. You have McKinnon, who was the guy. It seemed like Murray had a huge week this past week. What do you think about the two of them?
I think you can flex them both, if that makes sense, because I think McKinnon has value no matter what the game script is, and then Murray, this should be a positive game script for him. So I think he's going to get like somewhere in that, 15 to 18 like he did last week in another positive game script for, a run-heavy attack. So I think they'll lean on him to put away this game if it does go the way it's planned. So I think they're both flex-worthy here.
Okay, that's fair. I'm a little worried about Murray because the Browns have been pretty good in between the tackles, despite being bad at everything else this year. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I think you're right that you can probably get away with playing both of them, and you might need to. As you said, we've got a lot of people out this week.
Yes, we
so, it is what it is. Brown side of the ball, I want to play Duke Johnson, and that's it.
Yeah, and even then, I kind of don't even want to. It sucks because this matchup is so bad, but you're right. You can play Duke, and that's it, man.
Yeah, there's no reason to go anywhere else for the Browns. As a side note, DeShone Kizer is starting.
What the fuck is that? Why are they doing that?
It's so weird because like I really respect Hugh as a coach.
Me too.
And I think he's like a great coach, and I don't get what the fuck he's doing. Like at this point this season, just pick one of those guys and ride them for the rest of the year. Like I don't care which one it is. It should probably be Kessler, but like just pick one of them and ride them, and that's it. Like you can't keep doing this like quarterback roulette every single week.
It's really bad. I think it's going to happen again too. Like you think Kaiser's going to shine against the Vikings, like he's going to get taken out at like halftime.
Yeah, exactly. There's I'd say more. It's more likely than not that more than one Browns quarterback will play in this game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Who do you got here?
The Vikings, please.
Same. All right, next game. Also a bad game. Chicago at New Orleans. New Orleans is a 9-point favorite. The over-under is, I put the wrong thing. I put New Orleans implied point total on our note sheet. The over-under is 47.5.
That's a lot better than 28.25.
Yeah, no, that's not correct. So let's start with Chicago because New Orleans defense is better. They're not the worst defense. They're not like this all-time awful defense that they've been in past years. And Trubisky has thrown in his 3 starts 12-8 or no, his completions have been 12-8 and then 4.
All wins.
Absolutely insane. By that math, he should throw or get 0 completions and win this week. But we'll see what happens. Do you have any sort of inkling to play anyone on the Bears side other than Jordan Howard?
No, I think it's just Jordan Howard. The only other guy I might consider is Cohen. I guess if people are still playing that game, but that's like very low end panic flex on these bye weeks. So
it's gross, and I'm going to have to do it in at least one league, and I hate myself for it.
Have you come to terms with like the 6 points you're going to get?
Oh yeah, I do playing a running back on one of the worst teams in the NFL who gets like 30% snap share. It's like my fucking nightmare, and I keep having to do it week after week. But what can you do? On the Saints side of the ball, I'm a little bit worried. I know they have, a high implied point total and all that good stuff. I'm a little bit worried with the Bears' strategy of just not letting Trubisky throw the ball, that this game is going to get slowed down too much for New Orleans players to really go off as much as they should.
That's a fair assessment. I just, you're not sitting anybody, but I understand you're tempering expectations there, which makes sense. And the Bears defense has been kind of like the Saints. Like they're not the best defense, but they've been ball hawking like crazy and getting pick sixes, scooping scores for 6. It's been pretty wild for both these teams. So I do agree that they could slow down the pace, but if they start fucking up drives, they could fall down very easily. And I think Mark Ingram could have a big game, Kamara as well. So if Minnesota if the Bears aren't able to play like the run the ball 50 times during the game strategy, then New Orleans should be fine, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Michael Thomas, I know he was disappointing to probably a lot of people, including definitely me this past week.
He's been up and down.
I thought it was like the golden matchup last week, but it just didn't work out, I guess. I'm hoping he bounces back. But just to clarify everything, I think the starters for New Orleans, or the guys that you're starting, are Breeze, Ingram, Kamara, Thomas, and then is there anyone else?
I would maybe stream their defense again.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, New Orleans defense is probably a nice play there. The one thing, I would be a little bit worried about the way defenses get points is sacks and turnovers, and you get turnovers through the pass game, and Chicago doesn't want to pass it.
That's right.
I'd be a little bit. Yeah, dude, it's like theoretically should be like a good fantasy matchup, and I'm just like so nervous that Chicago is going to run the ball 42 times and still lose by 14.
The the one thing that's cool at that, like New Orleans, where most of the people you're playing are going to be on, they are home and they do really awesome shit when they're home. So that's on their side. That's all I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
That could be a cool game script thing.
All right. I'm taking the Bears.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to go with the Saints.
I've been strongly considering just in daily fantasy tournaments throwing like a lot of Jordan Howard out there, just because the Saints defense has been worse on the ground than they have been through the air this year. And I feel like he won't be high owned, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He gets so much work.
Yeah, I guess so. And in a week where Gurley and Fournette aren't there, it's possible. But
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next one here. It's Atlanta at the Jets. Despite being on the road, Atlanta is still a 6-point favorite. The over-under is only 44.5, so not particularly high scoring here. Atlanta has been very, very disappointing. Sarkisian is very clearly a downgrade from Kyle Shanahan. Who would have thunk it? But the Jets have been a little bit better than we've expected. So what do you think about Matt Ryan going into this week and then his targets as well?
Matt Ryan's targets? Oh,
his pass targets.
I'm like, okay, I don't know what to say, but
Matt Ryan's going to catch 9 targets. No, man, his fucking wide receivers.
I got you, man. I'm off my game. We never podcast on Friday.
You're right.
But I was like, what the fuck is Walsh doing? I would still throw Matt Ryan out there. I think he should have a good game, like no matter what. It's a good matchup. Last week against the Patriots, he didn't really burn you, but he didn't exactly put up 30 because he didn't. He put up like a very average, like 17 or 20, depending on passing touchdown scoring in your league, which was okay. And I think he's got that floor and ceiling in this game, like assured. So like he's got the high floor and a huge ceiling for this game. So I do like that he'll be totally fine in this game. I think the over and under is pretty low for this. I think it could be like a sneaky shootout. If that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know, because I like McCown too in this game, but we'll get to that when we get to the Jets.
Okay. I mean, I feel like with Atlanta, you're starting all your normal guys here, right? You're starting Ryan, you're starting Julio, you're starting Freeman, and then Sanu and Coleman continue to be like those maybe if you need them type guys. And I think this isn't the worst matchup for either of them. Yeah. So it's you can probably make do with them. Just a note, with Sanu back, you can't start Gabriel or Hooper anymore.
Yeah, that's done. Yeah, that's pretty much the formula. If they're missing a guy, throw in Hooper or Gabriel, but everyone should be healthy. And it makes no sense why this offense isn't still crazy from last year. There's no excuse. It's
got to be Steve Sarkisian, man. He's like I know Shanahan also Matt Ryan won the fucking MVP like last year. Like there's that wasn't just like for no reason, but it's crazy. It's crazy how much they seemingly, and like maybe there's something more to it, but literally everyone who knows anything about football is like, why the fuck are they not throwing it more to Julio?
Yeah, I was also going to say about Matt Ryan's targets, aka Julio, that he got targeted the most out of a game last game. Jesus Christ, learn how to talk. And I think it was 11 targets, and he got finally some red zone work. So that is, I think, trending in the right direction. So I think they're finally realizing, like, yo, throw it to Julio, cut the shit. Also, he's great in the red zone. For the last decade, I feel like Julio has been
underused in the red zone.
Oh my God, dude. How do you not figure that out for so long? But finally, I think they're starting to realize it. Like, dude, that play over Malcolm Butler where he just ripped it away, he was fucking furious. But
I lost a game on that play, and it was extreme garbage time.
Oh yeah, that was the only touchdown they scored, and it was like 4 minutes left. Ooh, that's brutal, man.
Yeah, got a nice L on that one.
You should have been wishing for that fucking Gabriel jet sweep on 4th and goal.
Yeah, right. That's more like the Falcons play calling. Dialing up a skinny post to Justin fucking Hardy or something like that.
It's just, what are you doing?
I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the Jets. You mentioned McCown. I think that's an interesting play. For me, there are other guys. Like, I think I'd rather start Keenum than McCown.
Ooh, see, I was going to bring it back to that and say the opposite. So
okay,
I guess that's where our line is.
They're in the same general vicinity. I think of streaming quarterbacks. The play I'm excited about is ASJ. I think he's going to go the fuck off.
Yes, he really should. Just because he's been so great, dude, averaging like 6-7 targets a game and touchdown monster. It's been really nuts. The only thing I'm worried about is Atlanta's very good against the tight end, but you're not sitting ASJ.
You beat Atlanta over the middle though. They're better against the outside receivers has always been like what I've kind of thought about it. And like you kind of beat him with like pass catching backs and like slot guys and guys over the middle. So for me, I feel like ASJ should be theoretically a great play.
Oh no, I think he is more so with the targets and work that he's getting, especially in the red zone. But on paper, the Falcons are very good in fantasy wise against the tight end. Mm-hmm. I guess that's because they're getting overwhelmingly beat up by like pass catching backs and guys over the middle. And for the Jets, that guy would be ASJ. So ignoring that specific matchup, stat, I think your point is totally correct.
Cool. What about the backfield for the Jets? Do you have any interest in these three?
No. I can't do it, man. I can't even pick one.
I guess it would be Powell.
See, I would lean Forte.
See, that's the whole point there. Exactly. That says everything that you need to know is that like both of us are just like, this guy,
whoever you want, man.
Yeah. And then do you have, I have no interest in the outside wide receivers in this game in Curse or Robbie Anderson.
Yeah. Like Trufant's going to be, roaming around, shutting one of them down, and one of them will have a good game. And I don't want to be the guy trying to figure that out. It's the same thing with the running backs.
Cool. Yeah, that works for me. I'm going to take the Falcons.
Me too. It's a get-right game for the Falcons.
Hopefully, man. I feel like they should be – anyway, yeah, they should be way better. We'll be back with the next three games of the Part 1 preview podcast for Week 8. But first, we're going to hear from our good friends at BenchBoss.
This year, dominate your friends with free play-by-play fantasy football from BenchBoss. BenchBoss is the first play-by-play fantasy football game where you must think like the players and coaches on the field as you predict the outcome of every play. Earn rewards as you compete against friends and fans across the country. BenchBoss is currently recruiting beta testers, and we need you. Visit benchboss.tv to learn more and sign up today.
All right, and we're back. That was our pals over at BenchBoss. Make sure you are checking them out, signing up for that beta at letstalkfantasyfootball.com/benchboss. Vinny, let's get into the next three games that we have to talk about here in Part 1, and we're going to start with Carolina at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a 1.5-point favorite. The over-under here is 46. So not anything crazy, but am I wrong in saying this game might have a chance to shoot out?
Oh, it's going to shoot out for sure. Like the Panthers have been getting beat up in the past game.
Tampa Bay's been getting beat the fuck up in the past game.
Oh, that goes without saying. I was going to say they just get destroyed. Ground game, air game, like no matter what, Tampa Bay is always getting wrecked. That's why I think that Jameis will have to sling regardless. So like we saw last week against the Bills in a terrible matchup, Jameis was lights out because he had to throw almost 40 times, and he wound up putting up 300 yards on a great defense. Carolina's pretty good. They get Luke Kuechly back, and their defense improves, but they've still, even when Kuechly was active, when they were active, they still weren't that great. So I think they can get passed on, and like you said, this potential for shootout.
Yeah, dude, this I know the over-under is only 46. I feel like I'm going to bet that over.
You should.
And just this feels like a start everyone game to me. I think you can start Cam. I think you can start McCaffrey. You can think about Stewart if you're really kind of desperate, but probably not. But then Benjamin, Funches, and basically the whole Tampa Bay side too. Jameis, fucking
Doug,
Evans, Jackson, Doug Martin. Like I'm cool with everyone in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. The only problem I'm having is we're always in the team of Cameron Brate, and now OJ Howard's been sneaking in those touchdowns. And
yeah, I'm not about those tight ends.
Okay, if you had to, which one are you picking?
I have no idea.
I would still go Brate.
Okay,
but OJ Howard has been. I think
that's how I would lean too. But yeah,
it does make me nervous for either play.
Yeah, I don't know. You kind of shuddered at Stewart.
Yeah, Yeah,
We got a question. We got a question today, and I didn't put it in here, but the question was Jalen Richard or Jonathan Stewart.
See. Well, since Oakland's playing the Bills, that matchup sucks. With Stewart playing Tampa, I would go Stewart.
Okay, I think I said Richard when we got it.
You change your mind?
I don't know. I really don't know because I think you know what I said, and it was that I think Richard's range of outcomes I think is way wider, where he has a lower floor and a higher ceiling. And I think Stewart's range of outcomes is somewhere between like 4 and 12 points.
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it depends on your risk tolerance there, but I think I would probably still go Richard just because I might be biased there too. But,
Hey, man, you gotta.
Yeah.
You gotta. But I think I lean Stu. And I like you said, I shuddered at the very notion of starting him, but if you got it, you got it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we pretty much went through everything else. You're starting Benjamin and Funches, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Got it.
And then Evans and Jackson as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with Jackson, he's been very good. Like his yardage has been great. If he lands,
he's an every week starter.
Yeah, man, I think so too. If he lands a bomb, like that's week winning. Like how it always is for Jackson. But, on paper, I don't know. Or if you watch the games, like you might not say like he's blowing up or worth the money that they paid to get him. But he's been great this season. Yeah,
from a macro perspective, and it's crazy to see like from where he came to like where he is. But when you look back at his whole career, Deshaun Jackson's by far the best deep threat of like the past like
historically, he's the best all time. With like yards per game. So like he is the best deep threat of all time.
Yeah, dude, it's like really wild how like historically good he is. But yeah, anyway, who you got in this one? This is kind of a toss up.
You know what? I think the Bucks are they. Yeah. Oh no, wait, they're the underdogs here.
No, Bucks are the favorite.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought I was being cool, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Tampa here.
Okay, I'm gonna take Carolina. And I think I'm going to have a lot of Cam in DFS this week.
That's a great call, dude. But isn't that weird that Tampa's favored?
I mean, they're at home. So
is that the only reason?
It's only a 1.5 point. Like, I bet you if Carolina was at home, they would be like a 1 or 2 point favorite.
That makes sense.
So I don't know. I think it's fine. This next matchup, though, does not have a close line. We have San Francisco at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a 12.5 point favorite. The over-under here is 45.5. So not a particularly high over-under for that. San Francisco's implied point total is only 16.5 points. Let's start on the San Francisco side of the ball, I guess. Garcon.
Yeah, and high.
Yeah.
That's it?
I think that's it.
That makes sense.
George Kittle? No. This was the week where like I thought George Kittle was going to like establish himself as like you're an every week tight end. And
like you mean last week?
Yeah, this past week.
All right, well, that was a weird ass game.
I mean, I know the starters didn't play in the fourth quarter, but like George Kittle like had like the lowest of the last 3 weeks in terms of snaps, routes run, like everything. And I was like, this is it. This is going to be 3 weeks in a row. George Kittle is legit, and he just blew it completely.
I mean, to be honest, like that game script set itself up perfectly. You're like, great. Yeah, this garbage time will rule. Like they're down like 30 points in the second quarter. And then there was nothing for Garcon. There was nothing for Kittle. And you know what? Beathard threw it 30 plus times or almost 40. I think it was 38. And it just was not working in garbage time for him.
I started Kittle in my flex in one league. I started two tight ends with one of them, George Kittle. And it was almost just like a fuck you, I can do this, And like it just didn't work. And I was so mad about it.
It's a very Walsh thing to do.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm totally about starting like obscure people
in your face play that doesn't work.
Just to say like fuck you, this play is gonna work. And like it did not work. That's how I get my kicks in fantasy, is telling people I'm going to beat them with like Jared Goff as my quarterback or shit like that. But
It's better than Kittle at flex.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, yeah, I don't think I'm about Kittle this week, but keep an eye on him still. I think he's a guy who could be owned in some leagues, but Philadelphia started the ball. I think this is interesting. They showed they were willing to run up the score this past week. What do you think about Carson Wentz and then, the rest of this offense?
I like it. I am, obviously, but I'm worried about the
it's
loss
good.
Yeah, I like the Eagles a lot. They're like the best team in fucking football right now. They good. They good.
I think they're going to score some points this week, Bob.
Carson Wentz throws the ball. But I'm worried about the loss of Peters. He's, always Pro Bowl caliber dude, and now they're losing him. So it's got to be big. I don't know if the ripple effect will be like offense shattering, considering, they're firing on all cylinders. But Carson Wentz, always a go. I would play Blunt. I would. His workload hasn't been great, but they're going to be in this the whole time, and they're going to run the ball. So I like Blunt as a play. And then do you not like him?
Well, I'm just a little worried because Blunt really only got the goal line stuff. Even when they were up like that, he wasn't in there in between the 20s for the most part this past week.
All right. But
I think Smallwood's the play.
Okay. See, I still lean Blunt on that because they're going to be in the red zone a ton against San Francisco. So
Blunt has a way higher ceiling for sure, but Blunt could also get you 2 points.
Also very fair. I don't know. I guess it's, it's a roll of the dice, but I like Blunt more for the touchdown upside clearly. And then you like Smallwood basically because he'll get more work.
Yeah. I think he has the way higher floor of the two of them. And Philly's not the kind of team where like they showed last week, they're not going to just be all right, cool. We're going to run the ball every down. They're just going to keep chucking it apparently. I love Alshon this week.
I do too. I mean, I did last week too. Me and Matt tried to call his breakout game, and Jesus Christ,
he dropped 2 touchdowns. Man, I was supposed to win in our league, and I didn't because Alshon dropped 2 touchdowns. But
it's got to be like the Amari Cooper situation. It's gonna hit.
Yeah,
and
it's coming.
After seeing what Cooper did. The targets are there for Jeffrey. The red zone, opportunities are there for him. Certainly this week for sure too. So I'm gonna call it again and just say breakout for Alshon. And if it doesn't happen, it'll be next week. I don't give a fuck, man.
I'm on the same page, honestly. He's had a lot of rough matchups. Last week was a good one. I thought that was going to make it happen.
Yeah.
It didn't. He did drop the 2 touchdowns. Alshon, I think, is a great play this week. I think Aguilar is still a good play. And Zach Ertz is a top 3 tight end every week.
Oh, yeah. Zach Ertz for sure. I'm sick of this Aguilar stuff, man. He's wide receiver 9.
It's happening, man. It's a thing. It's a thing.
I'm shell-shocked, dude. I drafted him as rookie. I talk about this on every podcast. I'm it's like he broke up with me and just destroyed me. Took him his rookie year and was so excited, and he was supposed to do this, and now
he's Nelson Aguilar is the fat girl that you dated, as just kind of throwing her a bone, and then she somehow broke up with you and then got insanely hot. That's how that's working out.
And now dates a way hotter dude than me with a way better fantasy record. And
dude. Huge, way bigger dong. Just way bigger.
Jesus, man. I just can't believe it, but I agree. He's a great play, and probably rest of the season is probably going to be on your starting lineups more often than not, which that took a lot out of me.
All right, let's pick this one, man. You gonna pick the Niners?
No, I'm gonna go with the Eagles here.
Yeah, that's your correct choice. I'm also gonna take the Eagles. Last game of the podcast here, Vinny, and then we'll get on out of here, and we'll have part 2 coming up for you. But we got Oakland at Buffalo. Buffalo's a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under here is 46. The big news on the Oakland side of the ball is Marshawn's suspended for shoving a ref.
Yeah.
And while that's not the biggest news in terms of, his production, it is big in terms of DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard. And to a certain extent, Cordarrelle Patterson are now going to be getting the work out of the backfield. Let's start with in the backfield then. Which of these two guys do you prefer, or is it just a coin flip for you?
Well, two guys. I heard three names. And my guy, Cordell Patterson, dude. No,
Cordell Patterson, he might have like a 45-yard rushing touchdown this game. Like, it's entirely possible.
They give it to him like around the 50 every time. He just busted loose. I don't know.
He's pretty good, dude.
I also don't get that. That's another thing I don't get at all. I refuse to understand that. But out of the two, man, this is tricky. I like Rashard a lot. I like what he's been doing, regardless when they're all healthy, So I think Rashard is the safer play. But I do think Washington has the goal line opportunity, if that makes sense, because they did run him at the goal line several times in that Chiefs game.
Yeah, so I actually think Marshawn being out does way more for Washington's value, because I think Rashard obviously picks up some work, but Washington now becomes that primary between the tackles guy. And I think that really, really makes him a pretty solid start. I would honestly start both of these guys as, an RB2 flex type worthy guy this week.
Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of people don't own both, but they're both playable. So if you're in a pinch, throw them in, whatever. It's pretty much 50-50 either way. So there's really no predicting what's going to go on. It's game script dependent. There's a lot of things. And this will be the only week you have to do this pretty much because, Lynch will come back and muddle up the whole situation. So don't miss out on the potential for like a bye week bailout or something like this. This is like a golden opportunity for people that are in trouble.
And while Rashard is known as the big play guy, I think Washington can break big plays as well. So you've got that kind of upside in both of them.
Yeah, that's very fair. We've seen them do that too. They've both shown what they can do, and they just have great backs in Oakland. So
yeah, absolutely. So then moving to the passing game, Buffalo's defense is, they're a good defense. It's not the best matchup certainly, but what do you think about Carr? And then, Cooper after his breakout, Crabtree's still there. Jared Cook's been quietly a pretty startable tight end from week to week. I don't know. What do you think about these guys?
I think you could play them all. I think the way that the game script went last week for with Tampa versus the Bills, they wound up throwing it a ton, and then you saw the cracks in their defense, eventually unfold. And that's pretty much what the Raiders did against the Chiefs. They just threw it a ton of times. Fucking Cooper got 20 targets. Like, they're going to have to throw. And, with Lynch out, maybe they just will do that. So if they're going to chuck it a lot, I like Carr. I think you have to like Cooper, even though he's not going to get peppered with 20 targets, you pass-dropping tool. I hate him, dude. Why did it have to happen against me, Walsh? Why?
I don't know, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was just awful. But yeah, Cooper's still a play. And then Crabtree. I love him every week. And also Jared Cook, I think you can stream.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they're all, to a certain extent, plays. I think they all have pretty low floors, but they also have high ceilings. Cooper, they moved him around. They put him in the slot a lot last week, which is interesting. And that kind of helped him break out, which is nice. I also, just as a side note, I decided this past week, and I don't know how I didn't do it before, but I think it was the idea that Jared Cook is actually a good part of the Raiders offense. I'm 100% buying a Jared Cook jersey as my next purchase.
We've always loved Jared Cook.
I've been a Jared Cook dude for years and years and years, and I feel like it just makes too much sense. But anyway, so that I think covers the Raiders. Carr is probably not worth streaming, I don't think, this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you can do it.
Okay.
Just I'm strictly going off of what happened last week. I think.
Would you rather play him or Dalton?
Dalton, for sure, just because the matchup is way better. Because with Carr, when you're rolling him out, you're just banking on the game script leaning their way of we're going to throw it all the time.
Right, and with Lynch out, that would kind of make some more sense too. So yeah, you know what? I like that.
Yeah, it's riskier than Dalton for sure. Just, if there's a better matchup, take that. And if you're in, hot water, go with Carr.
Cool. That works for me. Buffalo side of the ball, obviously Ty God's a play. He's a play pretty much every week. And he's a sexy play this week. David Emerson's going to be out. Not that he's been good this year, cornerback for the Raiders. And Ty God's a great play. I think Shady's a really good play too.
Yeah, those are the only guys I'm playing. and they're going to be fantastic.
I'm kind of interested in Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, why?
He's back from injury. It was his first week back last week. He got all the snaps. He got all, the routes run. He just didn't get the targets. I think he might be in for it this week. I could do some Jordan Matthews this week.
You think his targets will change, though?
Yeah, I think last week he was kind of a decoy.
He didn't play last week.
Yeah, he did.
Did he really?
Yeah, man. I picked him up in a couple of leagues.
The fuck out of here. I didn't know he played.
Yeah, I'm kind of about Jordan Matthews this week because the Raiders' pass defense has been garbage and someone's going to produce against them. And I think the most likely person to do it on the Bills is Jordan Matthews. So
fair. Well, it's definitely not Zay Jones. We know that.
Yeah, no. Zay Jones is not going to do anything. Now he'll catch 3 touchdowns.
Whatever. Fuck, he can do that. I don't care. But if there's a pass catcher guy, great. I think it would be Nick O'Leary, who has been, pretty much
also pretty fair.
Yeah, the replacement to Charles Clay. I just think their offense runs through Shady, Tyrod's rushing ability, and then the tight end. I don't see any wide receiver having a game where I'm I feel confident doing this. Jordan Matthews' best game, he had 2 targets, 1 catch, and a touchdown, and that was 10 points. So I'm not in on it.
That's completely fair. I don't really have anything to refute that other than I think he's going to do better this week. Right. Shady is this week's Zeke, though, where he's just a lock.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Anything else on this game?
That's it.
Actually, interesting question. Would you rather play Nick O'Leary or Jared Cook?
Oh, Nick O'Leary. He gets more targets. That's really – and the matchup's better.
Okay, fair enough.
You're leaning Cook?
I honestly don't know. I'll figure it out tomorrow, but I'm not sure for right now. So that's going to do it for part 1 here. We'll be back for part 2. It should be coming out immediately after part 1, so you can listen to them both back to back. Hear us progressively get drunker until we get to the Monday night game. And that's about it. Make sure you guys are, subscribing, whatever else, check out the apps. And for Vinny, I am Walsh. Later, podcast.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.